Okay, we're back live at VMworld 2012. This is in San Francisco. This is theCUBE, SiliconANGLE.com's flagship telecast. We go out to the event, extract the signal from the noise. I'm John Furrier, the founder of SiliconANGLE.com, and I'm joined with my co-host.
I'm Dave Vellante of Wikibon.org. We're here with Jayshree Ullal, who is the CEO of Arista Networks, a multi-time CUBE guest. Welcome back.
Good to always be back. Thank you, Dave and John. It's a pleasure.
It's always great to have you on theCUBE because the greatness of Arista and the greatness of theCUBE is something that we love that combination. Last year, you were one of our most popular segments, dynamic, very cutting edge, and we were actually talking about how networking's changing, and I'm really excited to have you here today because the networking business is upside down with excitement. People are exploding with interest around networking and software-defined networking. You guys have had a great success in this kind of modern era, as we're calling it, in the data center, leading the charge. And so the first question I got to ask you is, I mean, you've got to be pumped about this software-defined networking trend.
Oh boy, it just plays so straight into Arista. First of all, thank you for calling us great. Arista actually in Greek means to be great, so we're working on greatness at all levels, technology people and the people I'm surrounded with right now. So as you rightly say, software-defined networking was literally made for Arista. If you remember last year, I told you networking had gotten sexy, and I think SDN just proves it. Because what we can now say, and look straight in the eye and say is, we have the only software foundation for networking that's modern, open, and most importantly, programmable. It's this extensibility and programmability that really, really gets to the heart of software-defined networking. And at Arista, we've been working hard on it with a very clean sheet of paper for 8 years, and finally we can see the customers deploying it with much success.
Well, I got to say, we talked last year and we had a great CUBE interview. I see out there Pauline Nist. Hi, Pauline, from Intel. She actually said on theCUBE, the network is the bottleneck, and we talked about that last year. So, Jayshree, take me through the current state of networking. Obviously, we're bullish on software-defined networking, as you know, and you guys are doing it.
Yeah.
How's that bottleneck changing? What are the key trends that people should focus in on when they look at this segment? For the folks that are in IT, not inside the ropes, know the inside baseball, but what are the key things they need to be looking at around this shift to this modern, new networking landscape?
Well, as Pauline can attest, I think what's happened is the storage folks have put in terabytes of storage. The compute guys are really pushing multi-cores and multiple compute capacity. And all of a sudden, we always sat back and thought the network was not the bottleneck, but the I/O in fact is. And the applications and the capability of these applications are pushing the envelope as well. So what you see now is the real emergence of a new type of cloud stack, where no more can you just sort of have good enough for all these technologies, but you really have to build the best of breed for storage, compute, and the network has to therefore be a very critical foundation, and literally the I/O that connects all of these. And of course, we're at VMworld, so I could not mention the sprawl of virtual machines and how that's affecting networking foundations as well. And so this new combination of best of breed applications transacting over the network and bringing in the right resources of workload mobility, storage, and compute is, I think, fundamentally changing the way networks are deployed. It just can't be static anymore.
Pat Gelsinger was on this morning, the new CEO of VMware, first time on theCUBE as a CEO, and we were talking about the virtual machine sprawl. And particularly when you talk about software, you cannot not talk about virtual machines, but specifically how that's impacting VMs up and down the stack. So for example, there's a lot of advances in low-level virtual machines that's impacting programmatic decision-making, management of programs, big data analytics. So the question I want to ask to you is, you're got a unique position. You're a CEO of an emerging company that's at the cutting edge of this, but also you know the tech. So what is your angle on this data-centric infrastructure? Because what you're seeing is data is now at the center of the value proposition, Jayshree, and we had an earlier comment yesterday around the guys around operating systems, and in the old days, data wasn't really a part of the operating system design, but now data is, and the quote was, if SSDs were around during OS design, right, a completely different model would appear. So take us through the view of that. What's going on with this data-centric infrastructure? Is it real? Yeah. Is it a builds-on converged network? What's your take on that?
If I could add some color to that, John. As well, Jayshree, for the last 5-7 years, we've been focused on doing more with less, just TCO, cutting costs. You're talking about new applications. Yeah. That to me says we're going to drive new business value, really drive productivity for the organization.
I think you both are hitting on the massive drivers of why we need to really rethink this problem is the way big data is changing, not just the analytics, but also the applications are no more a closed mainframe or a closed a client-server architecture. It's really traffic patterns that are going east-west and pushing the envelope of everything. So let me step back and say, what is it in software-defined networking that's so exciting, and why is big data such a fundamental part of it? First, what it says is you can build a more advanced network topology. You can have a leaf-spine architecture. You don't have to have layers of high latency. You can bring all of this into one flat topology. This is why the invention by both VMware and Arista of VXLANs is so important, because we completely removed the concept of subnetting or having layer 2 boundaries, layer 3. All of a sudden, you extended the LAN architecture from an artificial limit of 4,000 VLANs to literally unlimited. It can be 16 million segments and addresses. This is, and one spec, one IETF spec that now everybody's embracing is right there. We're showing the industry's first VXLAN demo with F5, EMC Isilon, of course VMware and Arista, but we're bringing all this together, wire speed, all the way from, like you pointed out, delivering the application to the network reacting to it, to all of the big data scale out resources from Isilon responding to all of this.
Okay,
so it's pretty amazing when you can do all of this with one technology innovation, VXLAN.
So translate that for me into talk about the business driver of, I got a business, I got people with multiple phones, I got zillions of access points in the network.
Yeah.
So
I think you said it best. It's workload mobility of all those zillions of applications and access points, but take it another whole step further, which is not just across physical boundaries, but really physical to virtual to cloud. This is the enterprise is changing. The enterprise is no more a monolithic stack. It's really about bringing the openness and the programmability to every aspect of our resources and applications. And whether it's big data, whether it's Web 2.0, whether it's high density compute, or whether it's high frequency trading or massive oil and gas applications, exploration or social networking, all of these have some very common attributes that are now requiring networks to respond in a programmatic fashion.
So you guys have shipping product in the market with Arista that's cutting edge. We've been seeing on our dashboard, Cisco is putting out a lot of noise in the social sphere around Cisco. I don't even think they actually have a product shipping. And they had an announcement with VMware yesterday. What was that about? Did you follow that?
Well, it's difficult to parse through all of what Cisco does. How about I tell you what VMware and Arista do, and then we can comment on the broader Cisco. Obviously, Cisco is a well-established enterprise company, but private and public clouds, and especially the movement to software-defined networking, Arista began it with its software, and it's the only one in the industry. I can challenge anybody who says they have a software-defined network, whether it's really an enterprise network that's been sort of funged into a software network, or if it truly is open and programmable in every aspect. We've been long partners with VMware for the last 3 years. We developed VM Tracer. You might know we won the award for VXLAN. This year we demonstrate the industry's first multi-vendor VXLAN demo. What we're really doing, just as VMware brought server virtualization to the industry, together with VMware and the controllers, especially with their Nicira acquisition, we're really bringing network virtualization to the industry so that we can go beyond an isolated boundary to really the whole world, across data centers, across clouds, across virtual
and you know, John, Oracle bought...
hold on, what was the Cisco thing again?
Cisco thing was what Cisco can best
well,
describe.
so what, Oracle bought Zygo,
No comment,
right?
just say no comment.
Ah, that's
John,
better.
Oracle bought Zygo, they call that software-defined networking, so that's
Okay,
SDN
so
washing.
let me,
I don't know about
I don't
that.
want to get into Cisco because there's nothing to talk about there, because obviously the announcement yesterday was kind of like a,
I think
really
it's a
nothing said.
confirmation of a partnership they already had. That's good. That's like
Yeah.
saying my husband and I are still married.
That's a news release right
so
there.
if the software
That's-
proliferates, right, the software that you talk about VXLAN, you're changing the role of your company. You're no longer just a switch vendor, you're evolving your company. What are you becoming?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe this is we're really the new standard in software-defined cloud networking. We have brought the application to the network and the network to the application. And these high-performance transactions require a new class, a new dimension, and a new, more modern software, because it requires a new cloud stack. And these are no more closed proprietary connectivity points, but really a way to enable the next world of workload applications.
Jayshree, let's get into that, because I want to, this is important, because there's a lot of FUD out there around software-defined networking. Even the word software gets kicked in there, everyone starts screaming, oh no, I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah.
Take us through some use cases,
Yeah,
specifically.
that's a great one. Yeah, let's talk Let's talk about what you can really do with software-defined networking. The first thing, as I said, is build the right cloud topology. So our use case in many cases is they're moving from the enterprise, they're putting in a big data storage, typically it's a Hadoop cluster, and they want to build a large scale-out storage, and they'll use Arista Leaf and Spines and build out the topology. That's one use case. The second is they need to introduce what I'd call SDN control points. So the control points may be for enhancing network virtualization, or it may be for quickly, rapidly configuring their servers, so they could cut down their server configuration time from 6 hours to 20 minutes. We have a number of large software providers that you're all very familiar with right here in the Bay Area or all over the world that are using zero-touch provisioning to do that kind of one-touch software-defined network. VM which we work with VMware on, is another example of an SDN touch point, where you can not only say I'm building a virtual network, but I can now transcend virtual to physical as a use case. And this is where network virtualization really shines. And the final is what you've heard of a lot, which is controllers and management. Does the network manage the management station, or does the management station manage the network? Well, if you build a very distributed network and the controller has the right open APIs, Arista has taken the approach that we can be controller friendly with anyone. We've demonstrated that with vSphere. We can do that with HP or OpenView, or some of the service providers build their own management. And the key here is to unshackle the APIs, make it programmatic, and work with them so you can have a single point of control and management.
So you're talking about a
these are
top-down
use
management
cases,
model,
really.
right? That's what you're enabling.
You're
right?
talking about a closed stack now becoming an open stack with best-of-breed components every step of the way. I connect to the best big data storage, the best compute, the best virtualization.
So you buy the whole abstract, pool, automate message.
Oh, you bet. And the reason I buy it so much is because it starts with having best-of-breed server virtualization mapped into your storage, and it isn't a single vendor. It's really a multi-vendor, provided you have the right open architecture and you have well-defined APIs.
Okay, so I got to ask you, let's step back for a second. I want to ask you some more of a common question around your take on Nicira, okay? So here's a startup. I know the guys, I met them a few times and they're doing some cool work and OpenStack, et cetera. They got $50 million in funding, give or take a few million here or there, and then boom, $1 billion acquisition from VMware.
I like it, I'm proud of them.
So it's good, it's a great outcome. Yeah. But the effect, people who aren't in the industry go, oh my God, that's massive. Great exit, everyone does well. What does that mean? So what does it mean? So for the person out there who's trying to read the teas, why did that happen? Can you share your opinion on that?
One quick analogy, first of all. I think Nicira is like the Instagram of networking. One of the ways to look at that is sometimes and every once in a while, there's just awesome technology, awesome team that comes together, and they're so valuable, they created a value proposition around not just server virtualization, where VMware is the leader, but really bringing that to the network world, right? And the network virtualization platform, as Nicira calls it, was really pioneered by some very brilliant folks in Nicira. And they haven't had the time to take it to market and develop the use cases because they got snapped up earlier. But that doesn't mean there isn't a crown jewel there. And certainly Arista views that crown jewel as Nicira has built an open virtual switch controller that now complements VMware. And the two together, working with Arista EOS and physical switches, can transform the way software-defined networking, and in particular, network virtualization can be done.
So we'll have Martin on.
Technology as its best.
So tomorrow at 2, we're going to have Martin, the co-founder, on from Nicira. We're going to go into great detail about that great exit and great team and great company. And so it's safe to say then you're excited for Arista with this acquisition.
It validates us.
Validates us, it gives you more room to grow. You think the growth on there will be significant from this?
Absolutely. We had been working with Nicira even before the acquisition, and we've been working with VMware a lot. Look forward to seeing more demonstrations together from us.
Great, so Nicira is creating a new land grab around software-defined networking, which we need, and we need more developers. We need more solutions. We had Ping Lee on earlier and Frank Artali from the venture community talking about the excitement around the VC community. So question for you is, what kind of new startups might emerge that will come into the space? Because with that kind of exit, obviously it's going to draw some new entrants in. So what's your take on that?
Because 8 years ago, nobody was funding networking, and everybody was saying, it's
It's
Cisco, and Cisco's buying every company, and that's it. And if you actually look 10, 15 years ago, Cisco had a $500 million market cap, and the sum of all the companies couldn't add up to 100 billion, right? Things have changed today. If you look at the best of breed companies, whether it's Riverbed or F5 or Aruba, or newcomers like us, like Arista, what it says is if you focus on an application segment, if you build great technology and you take it to our customers are very hungry for alternatives. Our customers are in the center of figuring out their big data strategy, their cloud strategy, their virtualization strategy, and the only way to solve that for the VCs is to really innovate there.
So what new areas do you think are going to be, is there any white spaces that you see that need to be filled by some startups that you see as opportunities?
The gray space is more than white because a lot of people are already filling it, right? But I think the fundamental shift is you're going from just thinking about the stack as an OS and an independent storage layer to really data transactions. The new application is not your standard email or mainframe or client server, but a whole new of data applications that require you to manipulate the data and therefore the software very differently. Whether it's for wired, wireless, mobility, anywhere.
So the question I want to ask you here is more about a CIO type. So imagine you're talking to a CIO and you turn your business hat on, you have to kind of talk a little slower. You say, and they ask you, what's this data infrastructure? Because we kind of bought converged infrastructure, but we're modernizing our data center, we're going to the modern era, the Hadoop era, the Arista era, we're moving to the new way. What does it mean? Why is it, what's different about this new data infrastructure that's different from converged infrastructure? What would you say to that person?
I think in one single word, it's agile responsiveness. The CIO has to deliver applications and services in real time, which is more and more difficult to do with an existing legacy infrastructure. So what he or she has to do is peel off and build that private cloud or public cloud, and think of it as the Amazon of infrastructure in some ways, and really think about the layers and the mission critical applications, and not necessarily succumb to their legacy habits and behaviors. And
Great.
so
you see a lot of, based on your early comments, a lot of innovation coming to networking. You want to stay independent. I'm inferring that from some of your moves lately. So how do you stay independent? How do you make yourself acquisition-proof?
I think the best way this can be answered is to say we continue to build best-of-breed technology, and our customers ask for our independence. As you know, I've shared with you often, we've still been going at the rate of one new customer a day. So over the last 3.5, 4 years, we have now 1,500 customers. And our customers talk to each other and by strengthen our independence, if you will, because they're all looking for an alternative and an alternate way of thinking and breaking old habits.
You guys do have a great reputation on, I go visit a lot of startups and growing startups and web scale companies, and I see Arista boxes by the pallet in there, and they're not buying one or two, they're buying a lot of the high-end boxes, so congratulations on that.
Thank you, thanks for your support. Appreciate it.
I guess my final question is, what's next for you this year? Obviously the market's frothy. What's your plans? I mean, obviously continuing growth, what's your growth strategy?
Well, our business plan is to continue to achieve profitable growth, not just growth, and continue to innovate. We're never afraid to build the next new thing, even if it replaces our existing thing. So our focus will continue to be big data, an application-driven software-defined network, continue to power more and more of the clouds. Cloud networking was our mission, but it's really taken off now with the cloud providers and service providers because they're seeing that it's mission critical, it's seeing that it's reducing their OpEx. So we want to be one of those companies that people remember do as they say and say as they do, and really continue to execute on our vision, not just have a vision statement.
Okay, maybe I'll ask one more question because I have one more minute left, but because you're so great content guest. The VCs out here that were just on, what would you say to them if you ran into them in a meeting, they're like, Jayshree, what should we be looking for in the next generation software-defined data center? Because now it's not just about software-defined networking, a whole new operating environment is being reconstructed with data infrastructure and big data. Right. How would you guide them, assuming they're your friends now?
They always were my friends, but they're especially friendly now, yes.
Since your valuation just went up by $1 billion.
I would guide them the following way, which is, really look at the problem you're trying to solve, whether it's a software-defined storage or compute or virtualization or application problem. And don't try to be all things. Focus on the micro segment and do it extremely well, because I think that's what's always made VCs innovative. Funding innovative engineers and companies and solving a specific problem rather than the broad problem. We have big companies to solve the broader problems. What we've been lacking is the innovation for the specific software-defined issues that be it on the controller or the infrastructure side.
Jayshree, I want to say you're a great CUBE guest. You're a tech athlete, as we say.
Thank you.
A lot of energy, a lot of knowledge, and congratulations on Arista. You guys are continuing to do well. I know you've worked hard. When networking wasn't sexy, you started a company, you built a team. The roller coaster of a startup, you've had great success, congratulations, and thanks for coming on theCUBE.
Fabulous.
Always appreciate it. You guys
That's
are my
fabulous.
favorites.
Thank you very
CUBE,
much.
this is theCUBE at siliconangle.com. We're here at VMworld. We'll be right back with our next guest.